The following program contains material that viewers may find unsuitable for younger children. A parental control system is advised. The following program contains opinions of the participants and does not reflect the views and beliefs of the Derana Media Network. The network believes in a safe space for all ideas to be expressed without any censorship and on its duty to create such a platform for free speech. Viewer discretion is strictly advised.
Hello and welcome to another episode of TPS, the Public Square on Other Derana News Channel, where we discuss about the most relevant and pressing conversations that shape the political landscape of Sri Lanka. Now, over the past year, Sri Lanka has been talking about reforms, transparency, and also when it comes to restoring public trust. Now, when it comes to this, tonight we are going to discuss about a topic that sits at the core of democratic governance, and that is about media freedom and political accountability. Now, to discuss about this topic, I have two gentlemen over here with me. Towards my right, I have Mr. Barath Arullsamy from the Tamil Progressive Alliance. Hello. Welcome you. And also towards my left, I have Professor Priyantha Morapitiya from the Sri Lanka Podu Jana Perumuna. Welcome you as well.
Thank you.
All right, so now in terms of this discussion, media freedom and political accountability, now these two subjects go hand in hand. I believe these two coexist together. In this condition, now since the current government has come into power, now it's almost more than 1 year of them being in the power. So they talk about restoring public trust, reform and change. Now in that situation, do you feel like these two subject matters that we are talking today is somewhat changed to a better aspect, or is it same as to how it has been in the previous governments?
Thank you very much for having me here today, and I extend my compliments for the season. And it's a very timely topic in which we have seen the core element of this government's promises is the transparency. So the transparency amounts to the accountability. So the government in its manifesto or prior to their forming government or in these electoral stages, the one big promise they gave to the public is that they will be very transparent. They will be open about that. So as you correctly mentioned, this media and the information and also the accountability are no strange things. Those are like, two parts of a coin. So it is interconnected always. So any attempt to suppress that will amount to the same kind of media restrictions or preventing public to know their rights and know their information. So the entire scenario which is happening after 1 year, what an average layman can understand is that the government is not delivering what it has promised, and when a media organization or an individual asks a question, the government tend to suppress them. That is what a layman can understand. So there are some ample recent events, but in my perspective, I always see media as the fourth estate of a governance, like how we have judiciary, legislature and executive. Though it is not directly in the governance, but the media is wherein which it's a watchdog, how these powers are utilized, because ultimately the sovereign power has been vested to these agencies by the people. So any attempt to overcome or mitigate or kind of suppress these information coming to the public, then we always tend that it is a threat to the democracy. So there is a famous case in 1950s, if I'm not mistaken, in India, between State of Madras. So the judge very particular, the freedom of speech and the press are the core foundation of any democratic organization. So that is one very essential element wherein which knowing the information and gaining the information is very vital at this stage. But we must also give due consideration what is happening around about this misinformation and disinformation with this social media handling and also with this AI things are growing up.
I think I'll cut you
Yes.
short from there because I do have a follow-up question to that as well. So I want to get an idea from you, Professor Morapitiya. Now, when it comes to this current government, they talk about transparency. Now, media is a pivotal placement when it comes to making sure that the political organizations are very accountable or the political individuals are accountable. So in that given context, do you feel like whatever that was being done in the previous governments is far more better than whatever this government is doing in terms of holding accountability and transparency?
Thank you very much for inviting me for the third time, and also thank you very much for taking this much very important, timely important topic, as Mr. Barath said. Okay, for your question, it's a very broad question, so how can I answer for that question? First, I must say that in any country, every major disasters are first exposed by the media. Normally, especially in Sri Lanka. So in the Sri Lankan context, that is also the same, but at the same time, the consecutive governments are ignoring that messages. That's happened now in Sri Lanka. So the media is the most important. So you have to protect the media. You have to, whatever the government in past or now or in future, you have to protect the media. So you should have some rules and the regulations to protect the media, not to suppress the media, right? So I want to ask from that point, and if I'm not mistaken, so if you go to the previous government, right? So I'm not talking about the present government, I am not talking about the previous government, in general I'm talking about the consecutive governments. If you go to the previous government, if you can remember, that infamous East attack was well informed by the media, but the government did not consider about that. So if government took that into their account, that should have been avoided. At the same time, in this time, so these, what they call these natural disasters, of course, no government can prevent the natural disaster, that's happening. But if the government heard or if the government concerned these media messages given since November, if I'm not mistaken, November 12, so this disaster should have been cut by 75%, guaranteed. 75%, especially the human losses. Of course, the property losses, no, it's very difficult. But the human losses should have been cut by 75% or more than that. So the government did not hear to the media. So therefore, please, whatever the government, whenever you are having whatever the government you love or I love, so the media is the best. So according to the Reporters Without Borders 2023, free media is the first line of defense. So you have to protect the media. So now your question. So as Mr. Barath very clearly said, this government came to the power giving lot of promises. Normally in Sri Lankan context, especially in the South Asia, right? Every countries, right? Almost everyone is coming to power giving a lot of promises. So that is standard. But especially this government came to power giving lot of promises. So they are now in a position not to fulfill their promises. So one of that promise is the free media. So according to this topic, so the topic is the freedom of media, so I am adding another one, freedom of expression as well. Freedom of media and the freedom of expression versus political accountability and the responsibility. So I am adding those two additionally. So the freedom of expression, so you need to allow the people to speak, right? Because if you avoid the questions or the constructive criticism, you avoid the accountability. right? But if you avoid the accountability, the people has to pay the price. The democracy has to pay the price. So at the end, you can't avoid the consequences. You can avoid the media. You can avoid the serious questions. You can avoid the critical questions, but you cannot avoid the consequences. Now this government has faced for that level. And so therefore, I have to tell you very clearly, the previous governments, of course, they had the similar problems. But they had these problems not like this. When they were close to end their first terms, they had to do this one. But this government, especially this government, came to this level within just 1 year time. And according to the, so I want to structure my today's delivery based on the SARC Journalist Forum's report. This is a very important report. This was not prepared by Sri Lanka. This was prepared by the SARC, Mr. Raju Lama, the president of that. So according to this report, the Sri Lanka is considered as a wolf dressed in a sheep clothing, according to him. So I will be discussing one by one the points raised by the SJP in the due course.
Thank you so much, Professor Morapitiya. I believe you mentioned a very important element, that is the freedom of expression. So taking that from there, something that was mentioned by the International Federation of Journalists on the 14th of November 2025 in one of their articles. So this is about self-censorship replacing open repression. So now most of the journalists have a concern when it comes to having the freedom of expression, because the free media movement notes that although direct threats against journalists have reduced, uncertainty, legal ambiguity and economic pressure have led to widespread self-censorship within newsrooms, and that this was mentioned in that article. So in that context, do you feel like now self-censorship means you are restricting yourself, you are not openly expressing yourselves in terms of whatever that's going about in the country or whatsoever that the journalists get involved with? So this is something crucial to a journalist as well, being open, freedom of expression. So if they have mentioned this in that particular article, that is something of a question mark that the government needs to work around and think through as well, which they have posed in the article itself. So what's your take on that?
Well, recent few happenings, like, the police intervention on a media house, and then the Criminal Investigation Bureau is summoning an editor of a media house. These things are no strange happenings which the government earlier accused of predecessor governments. So as a party, as an individual, we always advocate for, as Professor rightly pointed out, this freedom of speech, because it is not a strange thing for us. It is a constitutional right everyone does have according to Article 14. Yes, it does have restrictions on Article 15, but it has a very narrow limitations on legitimacy ground. But only because of informing the public does not count. It is, we have to restrict it. So the international media's report on the government further, now already we are in hot waters by, even though we were in the Sendai framework for disaster mitigation, we have violated that because we have not given prior warnings to the people to be cautioned about the disaster. And subsequently making a kind of a restriction on media houses will further put the credibility of the Sri Lankan government as a state among the international arena. And also in the RSF rating, among the 180, we are in 139 if I'm not mistaken. So these things have a large impact on our governance. So as I told you, the fundamental of this government coming into power is to be transparent, media freedom, anti-corruption, less public spending. So there are a lot of things which in the plate. But unfortunately, in this 1 year or post 1 year, we don't see something is deliverable to the people. So choking the freedom of speech and also the censorship on a journalist, It's a big issue because, if a journalist or a media house makes some false statement, as I told you, the misinformation and disinformation, it is the public to decide whether to rely on that journalist or that media house, because it's all about giving the information to the public, and the decision will be made by the public. But unfortunately, in the sake of giving the information, and by the government, if they put restriction on a certain journalist or a media house, it creates a big chaos among the I think in the digital era, it is going to be a big challenge for the government to proceed further. And also, it is not about protecting any journalists. Like media freedom is not about protecting journalists. It's about protecting the rights of the people to know. So any journalist with good intention give the information to the public to alert them or give the proper information, any individual, any person to decide on their business perspective, family perspective, his relationships, everything. Like he has to decide. So I did see a lot of criticisms have been made by the guild here, the media guilds and SAC media houses, and also it has come to the limelight of international media. And already we are in a very deep problem in some major economic reforms. But taking and choking the media information is a very bad move at the moment. And I think the government will take necessary precautions on that, because I must reiterate that the fundamental of this government is about transparency and accountability. If they fail to do so, the same people who made them to come into power will think they will have the second thought about them.
Yes, I believe a core statement that you mentioned, media freedom is then again for the viewers, the citizens, to come up to a decision with whatever they perceive in terms of whatever the media houses bring about. It is your decision to take it and put on action with it. So I think we can dig deep into this discussion on media freedom and political accountability. Before that, let's go in for a short commercial break. This is TPS, the Public Square. Welcome back to TPS, the Public Square on Other Derana News channel. We were discussing about media freedom and political accountability, which is something that is related in the current political landscape. And something that was mentioned down in this discussion in the first segment was how the freedom of expression also holds a bigger part in terms of political responsibility as well. So something that I wanted to ask with regards to the recent situations, I believe, post-Cyclone Ditwa as well, is how social media was playing a pivotal role. Now, in this situation, when it comes to media freedom, there has been a blurred line between professional journalism and also partisan political activism. So this is something pivotal, and also when it comes to accountability and responsibility, this has a question mark, because what is professional journalism? And then in social media there are all sorts of fake news coming up from random people. So this is in terms of media freedom, this actually makes people question about what is true and what is not. And this is something that the government needs to look up to and should be accountable in terms of making sure that the people understand what is the right information. Because I believe in that particular era, in that particular duration, misinformation and disinformation was hugely taking a toll. So in that context, what do you think the government should have worked around in that specific timeline to make sure that the people perceive the right type of information?
Yeah, thank you very much. And as Mr. Prabhat said, Mr. Barath said, and also you raised that question, censorship is very important, right? But the problem is the censorship, why it is important. So if you have a war in your country, so you need the censorship. Sometimes, especially in China, they have the censorship because to secure their economic secrets, right? But now in this time, this government is going to implement this kind of things, not for that, but because they can't face these consequences. As I told you very clearly, they can't answer these questions. And also, the government is now trying to go after the people one by one, person by person. This is a very dangerous, person by person, right? So you being as a responsible media institute, this is your responsibility, not to be against the government, but to be against these policies, to protect your sister companies, right? So I have to mention that very clearly. And for your question, right? For your question, I must say that especially in this time, so this SARC Journalist Forum is playing a pivotal role, because they have condemned this government present working procedure with their strongest terms, right? If I am taken one by one, SJF strongly condemns the government actions that it says obstructing media freedom. So I am not going to name the name of that special media, but everyone knows in Sri Lanka, right? So they strongly condemns, and then their group decided they are using the police, CID, FCID, and all their institutes to suppress the freedom of media and the expression of freedom of the expression, Bhashane Nidahasa. So this is a very, very dangerous. So everyone in Sri Lanka, whether you are aligned to government or whether you are aligned to any other political process, you have to come forward to protect our freedom. And also, as Mr. Barath very clearly said, this this freedom of expression is not a privilege given by the government. It is given by the Constitution itself. Exactly. And it's people's right. Right. So the government should not touch those things. Not this government, any government. And especially the SJF noted the pattern for the last 15 months, how this government has been doing. So very crucial, very critical. Because this government specially came giving lot of promises. Unfortunately, they have been unable to fulfill their promises. So I can't understand, because within another three or 4 years maximum, so they have to face for the next elections. So what kind of promises that they can give at that time? Because they don't have any promises, because they have already given all the promises. So when before they face for the next election, they should fulfill all the promises they gave last time. Otherwise, they are unable to go for the masses. So if I am not mistaken, when the these local governments elections were conducted, the government lost exactly 23 lakhs and 15,000 plus, exactly, right? I don't know to which parties that 23 lakhs went. Anyway, government lost that 6 months ago. Now, if any election was held at this time, government definitely losing more than 35 lakhs, definitely. So, especially as you said, this this Dikwa or whatever the name, so this natural disaster, so the government tried to suppress the media because of the disinformation and misinformation, whatever the name. So the information should be correct, and information should be flown from top to bottom and bottom to top as well, right? And if you try to suppress the media, so there is no way of getting the information for the average people. People like you and me, like Mr. Barath, will get the information. Sometimes not from the local media, but from the international media. But the average people will never be able to get that kind of information. And so, and you raised another very good question. The information itself is a really important. But right, with the invention of the latest technology, is very difficult, especially the AI. AI is sometimes I am delivering something here, but within a couple of hours, sometimes my entire speech will be distorted, right? So therefore government, as you very clearly said, government should have some weapons to protect these things, right? Otherwise everyone will be in the real danger, because the AI tools can do anything at no time. So I'm agreeing with your point, and I'm agreeing with the government. Government has to implement some new rules and the regulations to protect these things, but to give a win-win situation, not to suppress the media, but to protect the media and protect the people, especially protect the community.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yes, I believe one of the key aspects that you mentioned is that media should be working around top to bottom and bottom to top, and the government or any sort of an institution can't intervene. So taking that from also the AI and the current technology with all these advancements, I believe the Online Safety Act is also pivotal when it comes to the current talk of the town, because people have been wondering and concerning about how it can also benefit the public, but also suppress journalists in terms of self-censorship as well. Because in certain arguments, I believe very rightfully, especially when it comes to certain media organizations, they have been working around in terms of challenging this act in the court, because there is a situation whether it risks discouraging journalists from holding power to account. So just as much as it has a benefit, it also has a dark side which needs to be addressed by the government before it comes into play or action. So what's your take on that?
Actually, it's a very important question. I would like to couple that Online Safety Act and the proposed PSTA, the Prevention of State Terrorism. So, why I'm referring PSTA right now, there was an advocacy by various stakeholders, especially by the existing president, abolish PTA. But unfortunately, the elements which have come in the proposal is very draconian, and also it is going to, if you publish something with the interest of the people and it is diminishing the credibility of the government, it will be interpreted as a act of terror, and you will be, taken into custody. And also it has given, it has grabbed the power of the judiciary, and it has enforced through the executive. So similarly, the Online Safety Act. Online Safety Act, yes, the intention of the act was very clear, to prevent the malicious intent content, and also to provide safety for the privacy, and also protect people from disinformation especially. Yeah. But unfortunately, we would see, nowadays, as you mentioned about this AI and social media growth, I'm talking about the younger generation, especially the Gen Z community, and also the millennials. Most of them nowadays, unlike those days, they don't rely on the next day daily newspaper or daily paper to study about that. Everything is instant on our phones right now. So now these acts, even PSTA or Online Safety Act, whatever the digitalization censorship which the government is talking, so-called censorship, it should align with the people, with the strict scrutiny on the basis of legality. Now UN has given 3 limitations. How and censorship can be invoked, where the legality behind this, the rationale behind this, and the public outcry behind it. So if there is a misinformation, as I told you earlier, there are various ways you can. So this doesn't mean by an act, choking the entire information streamline to line to come to a standstill. And one more important thing. Now, with the recent rise of AI, as we know, there are many things can be achieved by that, and there are a lot of things can be misled by the people. So now, the youngsters are very smart. Now, if you had given a promise in your election stage, it is recorded there. So we can't play with that new technologies. So here it is all about delivering what we have agreed. Now there is a famous scholar, is a journalist and a political thinker called George Orwell in British. So he says the collapse of independent government or a state is will happen by the state controlling the information to the public. So here any attempt by the government to minimize the information spreading to the people, I don't say that misinformations, but valid informations, and which the people right to know and which people does not have the resources to know, it is an ethic of a journalist to take that to the people. That is what we respect journalists, as they bring something which we don't know. So like this, by using Online Safety Act, there are pros on that, but more than pros, there are cons on that. So that is what a lot of NGOs, civil organization, including media houses, went to courts, amend this Online Safety Act. But still I don't see a positive response from the government on that, because by this we can see a lot of people who share valuable information, giving rationale, giving and bringing the like the reality to the people, have been cornered and pushed to the wall. So I think it is a high time for a younger generation. Now the country talks about digital infrastructure, digital growth. If we have these kind of limitations, where can we build our digital growth? So it is a question we must all clearly understand and think about that. So I would suggest to the government to take these things very seriously. It's not about just arresting someone, putting behind bars will gain public attention. Now that era is gone, I think, in 1 year. Now people are more towards looking at about the reforms and more doing about the promises they have made during their electoral stages, and they wanted to grow. So if there is a you remember there are like social media and also this digital content creators. They are facing a huge a kind of a monitoring and policing by the agencies. They can't even do a content at least to get their likes nowadays. So I strongly believe that if a government pro digitalization or pro technology must have a broad understanding, and also yes, there should be censorship, there should be limitations, but it should come in the legal framework, and one should go and resort the legal remedies rather than taking an executive decision to prevent them by giving information to the general public.
Yeah, that's very true. I believe just as much as you mentioned in a very simple way, like how social media content creators have a legal framework, maybe from Instagram or TikTok, it can be worked around by the government itself to the freedom of media, and also making sure aligned with that the political accountability is withheld. I think that was a very insightful discussion in the second segment as well, how we were discussing on censorship, and also how it is important to understand the boundary line of professional journalism and also other sorts of misinformation and disinformation. So let's go in for a short commercial break before we head into the final segment. This is TPS, the Public Square on Ada Derana News Channel. Welcome back to TPS, the public square on Other Derana News channel. We were discussing about the timely topic of media freedom and political accountability, and also we were discussing about the Online Safety Act, which has been something pivotal in terms of understanding how it has its pros and cons and how it actually refers to the media freedom as well. So as we come to the final segment, gentlemen, I think something that I want to ask in terms of us moving on to a new year, 2026, is something that the citizens need to be positive and have their fingers crossed in terms of media freedom plus the political accountability. So media freedom is not only about slogans, speeches or whatsoever that is being communicated, but also making sure that whatever the government, whatever the individual is being accountable and also is taken decisions on whatever it is given about. So if there's one single reform that you think that the current government should work around in terms of making sure that these two elements that we were being discussing is correlated and moves forward in 2026, what would it be?
Yeah, and you came to a very good position, very good clause, correlated. That's a very good word. So according to my understanding, according to my philosophy, the media freedom is positively associated with the political accountability. So if you lose the media freedom, then the political accountability and the political responsibility will also lose. So because they go with each other, right? So when you're losing one side, the other side will also be definitely losing. So that's a very good word. So this is a very good research area for the youngest. This is a very good research area. Media freedom is positively associated with the political accountability. Right? It is an independent media enabled transparency, scrutiny and public oversight. So you can hypothesize the statement. So the hypothetical statement is media freedom is positively associated with political accountability. So we can, or you can prove it theoretically and empirically, that statement. So this is a very good research area. Right now for your question, yes, and as Mr. Very clearly said, the censorship is very important. But now this government is trying to introduce a self-censorship. This is a very dangerous self. That means, for example, I can show you that this person, he says that if he talks about low quality medicine, he will be arrested. After taking into the CID, he is telling publicly. So this is a public document. So this is self-censorship. Now this person and me, and I know one of my friends, now they are asking what to do. Should we speak like earlier or should we go back? So now, because now they are trying to self-censor. So this is a really dangerous. And your question, yes. So the media's role is not to give the information about these things to up to down. No, they should give something positive to improve the economy of the country. Because now we are on the verge of 2026. We had a very big natural disaster on the last months. As I told you very clearly, the government should have restricted those losses. The government should have protected more people. I told you very clearly, but that's over. So, but over means over, but in the future, so next government should take the lessons from the failures. Because the media is always there to take these lessons, to give more predictions, media. So, whatever the government coming next time should learn the mistakes from the previous mistakes. So, as I told you very clearly, the government is doing something, but according to my understanding, that is not significant enough. But whatever the government, even the government is there or not, something happening, because the entire state mechanism is there. So as long as state mechanism is there, something is happening, but that is not significantly enough. So the government's role is to expedite their way of improving this country, especially after this disaster. So taking international and local loans or debt is not enough. They have to have some special mechanism to improve the Sri Lankan economy to the next level. And with the introduction of AI, they can do a lot. So as you know, now the entire country, the entire world is governed by the knowledge-based era, especially by the AI tools, the Internet of Things, 3D printing, disruptive innovation. All these things government has to consider specially in order to improve the country into the next level without thinking what happened in the past. So always they are blaming to the previous government. So if I am not mistaken, right, they should have been given a country which has not been governed before, because whatever happened they just blame to the previous government. So didn't they know that this country was governed by a previous government, right? So please ask. So I'm asking from the entire country, whatever happened, they always blame to the previous government. So before they came to power, don't they know that this country was governed by the previous government? So they manipulated the situation. So anyway, that's okay, that's finished. Now their objective is to bring our country to the next level. So that's my message.
Thank you so much, Professor Morapitiya. I think something that we need to go through in 2026 is after the Cyclone Ditwa as well, is that Sri Lanka is not stagnant but is moving forward. And for that, I believe media freedom and political accountability is correlated, and it is much more important. So something that you want to tell the viewers and also specifically highlight to the government as well, that they can work more on making sure that the citizens in Sri Lanka are looking into their governance much more positively in 2026?
I'm privileged to be the part of the final episode of TPS of 2025, and also I really this year had given us more experience in various aspects. So, like as you told, media freedom and political accountability is inseparable to ideologies. One cannot survive without the other. So the government or any state should not fear for information. If there is any questions, they should answer the questions rather, suppressing the media houses or the journalists, or the right of the people to know is a act against the humanity, I would say. And also having reforms on censorship, it is not purely based on a kind of an individual political ideology or an individual personal ideology, because we have seen this media suppression. It's not a quite strange thing for Sri Lanka. But with this new era, I think the present government, who came with that promise, they will bring a revolutionary change to Sri Lanka, will uphold the promises of the people's expectation which they have on them. So as a responsible political party, we are ready to support the government on progressive things, definitely. And if there is anything they are going off track, it is our responsibility to point out that you are going off track. So, and also it is our duty to keep the people vigilant about how the governance are happening. So this information and media governance is a part of the governance, and also as suppressing the media houses and journalists are not acceptable in any practices. And we are not in an authoritarian or dictatorship rule. It's a democratic country. Even when it comes to crisis, we have selected the government in democratic processes. So as a Sri Lankan, it is my hope and will that Sri Lanka will survive all these issues they have, challenges they have faced, and this 2026 will be a wonderful year for everyone. So if liberty means anything, I would say it is the right to people know what they don't want to know. So media is doing a fantastic job in Sri Lanka, even in their humanitarian aspect and information aspect. I know Derana also did a lot of humanitarian aspect during the pandemic, and also this recent flood and landslide. So these kind of media houses should be supported and empowered by the government. So I wish everyone a very happy and prosperous New Year 2026, and together we will build Sri Lanka to a better country.
Thank you so much. I believe that was a very positive note and something that the viewers are having their fingers crossed for a positive 2026 as well. Something that reminds us of this discussion is the fundamental truth that media freedom and political accountability cannot exist in isolation because it's correlated, and when one is weakened, democracy itself begins to erode. I think something that is we should keep in mind is this. And with that, I want to thank Mr. Barath Arullsamy. Thank you so much. And also Professor Priyantha Morapitiya, thank you so much for joining us today. So viewers, don't forget to send your feedback to our email at feedback.adncenglish@derana.lk over WhatsApp at 0768057933. We will see you again with another episode where we discuss about the most pivotal discussions in the political landscape. Till then, take care, be safe, and have a good night.
I wanted to give up. I'm done with all the things I'm going through. I'm trying to keep my head up. I try to win, but every time I lose. Should be getting better. I try, but I don't know what to do. Hope this ain't forever. I just wanna make a breakthrough, but something inside said never give up. All of these setbacks are major setups.